If you would like more videos like this, consider joining my online library. It's only $15.99 per month, and you can cancel at any time. Here you'll get weekly uploads of new videos around pain management yoga, restorative yoga, Ashtanga yoga, chakra yoga, all sorts. So head to www.yogatraveleronline/membership to join. Welcome to hip mobility, stretching, and strengthening. This pose is a hip pose as we begin. And we call this pose Sukhasana, which means easy pose, but it is certainly not easy if you have stiff hips. So let's make it just a little bit easier by taking either a blanket or a bolster. I'm going to use my bolster because I have it, but if you don't have a pillow, a blanket works just fine. Let's place the bolster or the blanket underneath our hips so there's a little bit of elevation. As we elevate, we'll tilt our pelvis forward a little bit, and this opens up this hip flexor area. If this still feels very tight, feel free to move to a wider kind of position, more like a Baddha Konasana sort of shape. For my purposes here, we'll just begin in crisscross Sukhasana, easy seat, bolstered on a pillow or a blanket. So close your eyes and start to connect to your breath. Breathe in and out just through your nose. As we work on hip mobility today, stretching and strengthening, the most important thing you can do is to listen to your body, to listen to those cues that might come up that will help you to connect with what's going on internally. We never want to move deeper than our body can handle. We always want to be listening and move with our breath so that we don't continue to injure ourselves. We want to be coming at this with health and care. So let's open our eyes. Bring your arms by your sides. Take a nice deep breath. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold forward. Now, if you're on a bolster or a blanket, make sure you don't fall off. But we're just going to put a little pressure forward on those outer hips. So as we reach forward, we might feel right through the outer hips. Whatever leg you have in front, in my case, the left leg, you might feel that hip more than the other. Reach as far forward as you can come. You might even be able to drop the elbows or drop the head. The deeper we go, the more sensation there is. However, everyone is different, and you might feel this with just a little bit of forward bend. Good. Now walk your way up. Switch your legs. Likely this will be the tighter hip, the tighter leg, the less comfortable one. Take a breath again. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold forward. Same thing, reaching down, trying not to fall off of your bolster. And feel that outer hip. In my case, right leg is in front, so that right hip I can feel just a little bit more. You might also notice some low back. That's a lovely sensation right between the hips, stretching that area out as well. Good. Inhale, lift it back up. Let's bring our feet open to a Baddha Konasana. Some of you might already be in this position. We're going to take it fairly wide, so not trying to pull forward at all, so that we can make a rounded shape as we come down. Round over your body and just let your head drop down and the curve of the spine make this nice shape. This should almost feel more in the low back than it does in the hips. We're just warming it up for a moment, feeling that space there. Good. Now lift up, pull yourself off of your blanket or your bolster. We'll just set that off to the side for now. Come back to that shape, that Baddha Konasana shape, feet together, knees open. And this time pulling it closer towards you. Then take your hands behind you so that you can brace yourself into the floor. press those legs down. You notice that my knees do not go all the way to the floor, but it's helpful as I push against the ground, lengthen my back, I can utilize my hip flexors to press down. So not only is this bringing us a little mobility in the hips, but it's also building that strength right through the front of your hips. This area is what we need to step forward. Our mobility in walking, our gait, our stride, that's one of the functions of the hip flexor. So some strength in that area is definitely important. Absolutely. Good. Gently release. We don't want to put too much pressure on our wrists. Bring your feet to hip width distance, still our hands behind us, and just rotate back and forth. A little windshield wiper, seated, just to kind of feel that movement across your hips, hip flexor into the low back, as it were. Good. Good. And then roll over to all fours. Coming onto our hands and knees, lift to your feet into our first downward dog together. Let's start by bending our knees and feel how this shifts our pelvis. You might notice the tailbone lifting up and back as we bend our knees. Also takes a little pressure off the low back, which is nice, and the hamstrings. Little release there. Then drop your heels back down. They may not touch all the way. Let's stretch those hamstrings just a little bit. Good. Pedal your feet, not terribly fast, nice and slow. Warming up the backs of our legs and our ankles. There's so many facets to the hips all around the body. So this is like the back of the hips, which moves toward those hamstrings. Sciatic nerve that runs down the back of the leg, that sort of thing. Good. Now lift back onto the toes and drop the heels to the right. And feel yourself pressing into that right hip a little bit. The side of the body feels nice to stretch that side. Lift up onto the toes and drop the heels to the left. Ooh, stretch out that hip on that left side. Can feel that right side of the body, a nice little twist there. Good. And then come forward. Drop your heels back down to neutral is what I mean. Come forward onto your hands and let's lower to our stomach. Feel free to drop your knees down if you want. Good. Tops of the feet on the floor, hands right by your side. Just a little cobra. Inhale, lift up. We need to just warm our body. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower down. Once more, inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower down. Press up onto your knees. Let them open a little bit wider than your hips and sit back to a child's pose. Now, if you're absolutely tight in the hips and the back of the legs, it doesn't always feel that comfortable. So perhaps you'll use a bolster again or a blanket, and you might slide it underneath just a little bit so that you don't have to reach quite so far to the ground. This will take a little strain off of the sacrum, off of that low back, and help us to open up the hips maybe a little bit more gently rather than forcing our body into a shape. So maybe just take a moment to use this bolster and just breathe and feel how the body might shift and change just a little bit. Good. Lift up onto all fours. Once again, slide that bolster out of the way. And let's come to stand up onto our knees. I'll face you. Let's warm our hips even deeper. Get a little bit of strength as well. So take your, let's see, we'll start with our right leg out to the side and walk it out further. Now we will put a little pressure on this left knee. So if you need to put a blanket or something underneath your knee for comfort, please do so now. Put that blanket under there. Take your right hand to your leg and just start to press. We can feel this right here through the hip flexor. Woo, nice and deep. Now we've widened our leg wide enough so that we're not putting pressure on this right knee. The left knee might feel it. That's why you might have a blanket underneath that left knee. Now shift back and press into it. Shift back and press into it. Good. A little stretching and strengthening at the same time. But see how we just keep moving. We're not stopping our movement at all. We're just flowing through it to keep things loose. Loosen up those joints. Good. How about just one more? Very nice. Hold it still. Let's straighten out that right leg. Inhale, lift the left arm. Exhale, lean into that right side. But at the same time, feel how we get this whole stretch all the way through that left side. Really nice and open through the chest, through the side of your body there. Good. Inhale, come forward, take your hands down to the floor. Let's rebend this right knee. Now, I call this Spider-Man just because it feels like that's something he might do. We're just gonna roll it all around. I think Spider-Man might release his hips this way. He's gotta have pretty loose hips in order to keep things, moving along as he flies through the air and all that kind of stuff. Good. Move it all directions. There's no right way. It's just shifting things around in the hips. Good. Good. Very nice. Lift up. Let's give this knee a break. Switch sides. So now we've got our left leg out. Walk it out far enough so that when you bend, your knee stays in line with your ankle. Put a blanket underneath the right knee if you wish. Here we go. Bend. Now at the same time, we're trying to pull this open, so don't let this knee fall forward. Keep it back, and you can really feel that stretch all through here in these rotators. Come back. Good, let's just keep it moving now. Bend it and back. A little bit of pressure, so we're really putting our body weight into this left hip. Building up a little strength there, at the same time stretching through this hip flexor in the front. Yes, good. Bending, woo, and stretch. Stretch it out. Good. I didn't really count on the last side. Let's just do one more. I probably was chatting too much about how it should feel. Good, good. All right, straighten out that leg. Bring your arm to the sky and let's lean into it. So now that right side of the body is getting a good stretch, and maybe you can feel it down the edge of that right hip. I hope so. Good. Beautiful shifting into that side body. Very nice. Good. Come forward. Let's let this left knee bend. We're going to do our Spider-Man again. Get all loose and free through that hip. Our side advantage, or our secondary advantage, is what this is doing to our low back. You might notice how we are spreading our hips apart. It adjusts our low back. Feels good there. So double benefits. Good. Make sure you're going the other direction as well. Maybe you're making figure eights or something. Just moving all around. Good. Good, very nice. Come back up. Beautiful. I'm going to turn to this direction. We'll take our right leg forward and start to move toward our lizard pose for the IT band. You might utilize some blocks. So maybe take blocks in front of you, right, framing the foot. Again, a blanket perhaps underneath that left knee, and we'll press down into those hips for just a moment. So this is not the IT band yet. This is more, again, through that hip flexor, through the front, getting that a nice deep stretch. But as we walk this right leg out to the edge of the mat, or you can put it on the pinky toe edge of your foot. See how I'm turning that there? This will start getting into the IT band. So let's creep our way forward. You can utilize blocks, right? Hands on our blocks. This time we'll move them to the inside of that foot, or maybe put elbows on those blocks. For those of you who are pretty flexible, you're welcome to do without and just go all the way to the floor. So this is lizard pose, getting that outer hip and IT band on that right side. And we're just using our body weight to press into the floor and into that hip to feel some change. Good. Let's take one more breath right here. Inhale. Exhale. Very nice. Come on up. Hopefully that felt like some good depth. Let's take it one step deeper. I'm going to move these out of the way. Bring your right leg down and bend to the left leg as well. I'm going to turn to the front in just a moment, but I just want to show you how both legs are bent. Ideally, we make kind of a 90-degree angle and a 90-degree angle. Do the best that you can. I'm leaning most of my weight on my right side. So let me flip this around so you can see. Okay, good. So most of that weight on that right hip. So we're going to use our right hand to press ourselves into the middle. Perfect. This is a variation of pigeon pose, and we're going to move through it. So take a breath, look up, inhale. Exhale, fold down. Keep yourself in the middle. Don't let yourself lean too far over. Keep yourself in the middle as you fold down. Ooh, can you feel that in that right hip? Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold it down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold it down. Inhale, lift up. Beautiful. Exhale, fold it down. Let's stay here for just a breath or two. Keep breathing. Keep your weight balanced right in the middle if you can. Whew, it's nice and deep. Good. Now lift up. Beautiful. Pull this left leg forward just a little bit and guide this right leg in. Now you can see that I can sit a lot more equal. If this is hard for you to sit equal, prop yourself up on your bolster again. Just a simple shift up onto that bolster with the left leg hurdled around the side of the bolster. Take your left arm across your body, right hand to the floor, a little bit of a twist. You'll notice that this left hip is going to lift, presses forward just a little bit so we feel that hip flexor quadricep shift there, plus a beautiful twist through that low back and the sacrum once again. Nicely done. Come forward, very good. Slide off your bolster if you're using it, and let's do our left leg. So we're going to come around again. Left leg forward on our right knee, hands by your foot. So again, I got to grab these blocks, don't I? Hands by your foot in front. just pressing down in. You might have the flexibility to put your hands all the way on the floor. In that case, you can let go of the blocks. But just pressing down into that hip. Now you can feel the hip flexor on the right side and that length there. Good, let's start to get into our IT band with the lizard pose. We'll bring our blocks both to the inside of that left leg and start to roll onto the pinky edge. See how we're opening up this hip flexor. Then feel free to deepen whatever you did last time if you can. Elbows down. Maybe you're doing without the blocks entirely. There's so many options. Do your best. We try to equal out our two sides, but sometimes one side is just tighter than the other. So do your best, listen to your breath, and keep going. Maybe it'll change as you hold here for a few moments and stretch that outer hip. It might change. Sometimes it does. Let's take one more breath here. Inhale. Exhale. Gently come up and lead your legs down to that 90-90 position. So see how we try to get 90-90. I'll turn back around to face you. This time we'll use our left hand to bring ourselves toward the middle. Take a breath. Inhale. Exhale, lean forward. Feel that outer left hip. Ooh. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, bend it down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, bend. Once more. Inhale, press up. Keep yourself right in the middle. Exhale, bring yourself down. Let's hang out here and just breathe. Breathe. Feel that outer hip. Feel it coming, stretching out. Inhale, lift up, tiny shift. Pull your right leg closer around you so it's hurtled back and the left leg in front. If this does not feel easy, sit up on a bolster. Take your right arm across, left hand to the floor. Shift that hip. Bring it forward. Feel that hip flexor. Feel the sacrum, how the sacrum shifts. Trying to just loosen up all these last areas with the twist. Good. Beautiful. Come forward, nicely done. Swing your legs around. Let's finish on the ground. Windshield wiper on the ground. It'll feel different than it did when we were seated. We're just going to wrap things up here. Take your arms out to a T, your legs a little wider than your hips, and go ahead and drop it down. Ooh, can you feel that through the front of the hip? Feel the motion in the low back. Come to the other side. And just move at your own pace. You might be moving slower or faster than I am. It's all going to be what your body needs if you're listening, right? Good. Rocking it out. A few more times. And maybe one more set to even it out, whatever direction you started. Good. Pull your knees into your chest. Give them a little bit of a hug. And rock yourself up to sit. Come back to that crisscross position that we started in. We're going to compare how we feel now with how we felt when we started. If you need to prop yourself with a blanket or a bolster, please do so. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold forward over the legs. Whichever hip is in front might feel it the most, but just ask yourself, does this feel different this time than it did when I first started? Do I feel a little bit of a change? Do I feel like something has shifted in my hips? Hopefully for the better. Good. Lift up. Switch sides. Take a breath. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold forward. Fall down into those hips. A few grateful breaths. Grateful because you've taken time to care for yourself. We can change the way we feel if we pay attention to our breath, if we listen to what our body needs. Inhale, lift up. Let's take one more breath together in unity. Inhale, lift. Press your palms together at the top. Exhale, pull down through heart center. Thank you so much for being with me today, for caring for yourself, making a difference a little bit at a time. Namaste.